Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
Coming up this weekend, Saturday night's main event, also known as the Royal Rumble Overflow. At the point of recording, we got ourselves 4 matches and a segment. We'll take a look at those matches. We'll see what sort of led to them. In terms of what happened last week's on the show, and if there's more time, we'll see what else we can cram in this week. But World Heavyweight Championship will be on the line. Gunther will be defending against main event Jey Uso. They went head to head on Raw this week, and finally, I guess, sealed the deal between the two of them.
I mean, it was an official match to begin with, but it was a nice promo. But the kiss of death occurred during the segment.
Touched it.
He touched the title that's not his. It's not like Kevin Owens, who's possessing a title that technically doesn't exist, but claiming to be his. He touched the actual title. That means he's not going to win, much to my dismay, because I want Jey Uso to win the world title. But I'm like 5% like in the camp of it's still going to happen. And 95%, yeah, not a chance.
Yeah, for me, when I was watching the segment, Jey Uso kind of just wants to be taken seriously and respected, I guess, with Gunther. And I feel like that is where they're going to head with the match. So Gunther still wins and walks out with his championship, but maybe at the end he does some sort of sign of respect to be like, you know what, you're actually a pretty good opponent, and sort of seal of approval Jey. Not that he needs any more seals of approval, his book's pretty full up. But that seems to me the most likely outcome of that match, as you say, Jey cursing himself to not win. But I think there could still be something in there for him in the match, even if it's not a championship at the end of it.
Yeah. I think with other stuff that's happening, I do think his role at WrestleMania is going to be part of a 6-man tag. As much as I'd like to see him win the Rumble, which I called many times, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think just at the end of the day, it's just going to be Gunther versus Rumble winner at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you mentioned a 6-man tag match there. I hope that I'm about to segue with the correct information into said match. We know that there's been this intermingling feud with CM Punk taking on Seth Rollins, CM Punk taking on Drew McIntyre, Drew coming back out and taking aim at Seth. We got Kevin Owens showing up on Raw, chewing out Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn accidentally kicking Seth Rollins in the head post that match. It seems like we are full speed ahead to the traitors who teamed up with Roman Reigns versus the heels that are talking a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was referencing. Yeah, it does look like it'll be Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, Sami Uso versus the trio of Rollins, Owens, and McIntyre, as the Rollins character has definitely eroded the last few weeks, especially with the whole situation with Punk and the match leading up to it. Him basically he's starting to listen more. And Drew McIntyre lost his match this week simply because he was too busy berating Rollins, saying you're better than this. You're selfish. You need to help me take down Roman.
Mhm.
And I think the Alova kick is like the ignition point. It was clearly not intended, but you saw that coming from a mile away because it was part of the build towards Rollins turning heel.
Yeah.
Although if you're a Punk fan, he was already heel.
Yeah, Rollins, obviously that character has been all over the place, but as you said, this week's Raw, I think was so big for him. He's still reeling from his loss to Punk, thinking maybe he doesn't have it. Then, as you say, Drew McIntyre beating him up, trying to beat some sense into him. I'm pretty sure I heard him scream at least one time, "We should be on the same team." And then,
he absolutely did.
It makes sense. And then, the exclamation mark, the haluva kick, and the look of betrayal from Seth Rollins up towards Sami Zayn is, I guess, everything Drew was saying might have been bouncing off, but once Sami hit that kick, it all immediately came rushing straight back, and that character is 100% taken a change this week.
Yeah. It's still going to take a little bit of time. I think a couple more weeks, maybe a couple weeks after WrestleMania or after Royal Rumble, for Seth to really come around. But I think there will be a segment where there's a beatdown on the Usos and Sami that you will have Seth Rollins come out and help the heel side. And I think once he does that, his music will change. I don't think he'll keep using the same music when he turns.
That makes sense. I think he's got to shed that whole the crowd sort of chanting along and singing along piece to really transition into a full-blown hated character. Well, we talked about Kevin Owens. Although he doesn't have a match at Saturday night's main event, he does have a segment. He will be signing his contract against Cody Rhodes for a match 1 week later at the Royal Rumble event. He's popping up all over the show. He's still holding that Winged Eagle Championship. Will Sparks fly at Saturday night's main event? Will they get into some fisticuffs?
It's a contract signing in the WWE. 99 times out of 100, because there have been a couple where there's nothing occurred. Although usually that's because they make the mistake of announcing that no contact can happen between the two prior to that. I expect Kevin Owens to pop up powerbomb Cody Rhodes through whatever table they have for the contract assignment. I do also think that this will be the part where they put the titles on the hook to and send it to the rafters. So I think there won't be a segment with him holding both titles, because I think they'll already be in the sky above them. Unless after he does that, he pulls out a ladder and goes and gets it. Which I would not put him past it, but I think that's what's going to happen. Is I think Cody Rhodes is going for a ride.
Fair enough. And while we were talking about that 6-man tag match at WrestleMania that we're sort of predicting we're looking ahead to, you mentioned Jimmy Uso, who's also embroiled in a feud over on SmackDown still with the Bloodline. We saw a segment, it was Jimmy Uso versus Carmelo Hayes, and then Fatu and Tonga come out and just beat him up. Braun Strowman sort of comes to the save, LA Knight comes to the save, a little bit of confusing segment with Solo, but ultimately what winds out of that is we're going to get Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu at Saturday night's main event going head-to-head.
That should be interesting. Fatu is wild enough to make me believe that he could beat Braun Strowman with ease. But Braun Strowman is Braun Strowman, and he's basically this generation's version of. I don't really want to compare him to the Big Show because he doesn't turn like he did, but he's basically got that role. He's the big monster that you can depend on to have good matches and have a reason for his storylines. So I'm fine. I think Jacob Fatu wins because I think it's part of building Fatu up. And you mentioned the confusion around Solo, and I think that's where we were talking about when Solo lost. That I think eventually it's probably going to be maybe even at WrestleMania, Jacob versus Solo. And I think that's where we're starting to get the ground running for that.
Yeah, I do think those puzzle pieces are falling into place. With regards to the match, I'm with you. I think Jacob comes out on top. Strowman should be a great opponent for him and sort of be a great showing for Fatu. Although I don't know what more of a showing he needs. He's been, putting on great performances anytime he's in the ring. Mike, between the bell, whatever needs to happen. But yeah, the match this weekend should be good. And as you say, Solo versus Jacob. Jacob's just getting closer and closer to Tamatonga, and by extension, Tongaloa. And Solo
Who is
seems
expected to come back prior to WrestleMania. So,
yeah, and Solo seems to be distancing himself. Might not be the right word, but Solo's doing what Solo's doing, and it, as you say, sure looks like some sort of collision course, probably for WrestleMania. Given we're in that season, you're in the first 4 months of the year. Anything's probably a WrestleMania match. Well, it is time for us to go into our entrance theme of the week, and that means that we're going to do something we don't do often, and we're going to talk about TNA for a little while. TNA and WWE, they made an agreement. They put a little pen to paper with their working arrangement, and that means that I guess we talk about TNA sometimes, or specifically just when they have a new world champion. You want to talk about it, or should the song just play there?
it's fine. Joe finally got his world title, and now we're probably going to see it in the World Rumble.
Yeah, I do expect to see him, as you say, in the Rumble, and should be good.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Side to side and say, oh, I believe in Joe Hendry.
And you're back to listening up on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. We still got 2 more matches on Saturday night's main event. We got Braun Breaker, we got Sheamus Intercontinental Championship. Will Sheamus finally finish his story?
I am conflicted with this pick. I love Braun. I love Sheamus. I love I love the feud. I love everything about it. I don't know. It feels similar in a lot of ways to the way Braun didn't take Sammy seriously in his first title defense against him, in which resulted in him losing, only for him to win the title back in a couple weeks. It kind of feels like the same thing that happened with Jay as well right now. So that based on that, maybe Sammy could say that Sheamus wins it for 2 weeks. It also feels like if Sheamus is going to win the title, while the Royal Rumble is a big show, it feels like it would be a bigger moment to have it at WrestleMania. But I can't see them dragging that feud out that long unless you're going to do some massive multi-man match. So, gun to head, I'm picking Sheamus.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick against my boy Sheamus. I think Braun Breaker has done great through his Intercontinental Championship reigns, but, anytime Sheamus is in an IC title match, I'm going to pick him. I want him to get that final accolade. I want him to tick that box before his career runs out, or at least his full-time career runs out. Braun Breaker has many a year in him still, but I don't quite know what we're doing. Obviously, we've had Ludwig stuff. We've had a whole lot of different things around this Intercontinental title. Nothing's really gotten running just yet.
Yeah. This is my guess, and it depends. It depends completely on Sheamus winning Saturday night. If Sheamus wins, I'm almost 89 to 90% sure the match we'll see for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania will be Sheamus versus Ludwig. I'm almost certain on that, and I think that's when Ludwig will win the title. At the same time, Gunther loses his world title. So I think that's probably what we're looking at. The biggest question and the biggest concern I have But this whole thought process is, where does Braun go from here? Because unlike we just showed with Sheamus, Braun doesn't have a clear path without the title. Unless they're going to just slingshot him straight into the main event by winning the Rumble immediately after losing the title.
Yeah, not unheard of. We often see it quite a bit, especially if we look at NXT, right? The North American Championship will lose the title, and then a couple months later, they're either challenging for or holding the NXT Championship. And I think if it wasn't Gunther holding the World Heavyweight Championship, if your 5% happens, Jey Uso claims the World Heavyweight Championship, then I could definitely see Braun Breaker reigniting that feud and jumping in that way and doing something there. Unlikely, but I don't know, as you say, what his path forward is, or if he'll just sort of fall into the shuffle right now in that Raw upper mid-card. The last match on the show, it is Rhea Ripley, it's Nia Jax, it's for the Women's World Championship. Kickstarted, I guess. There's been another cross-brand intermingling feud. We've had segments between them, we've had them with Liv, we've had Bayley popping up on all of the shows ever, having her match with Tiffany, not picking up the win. Nia kind of forgetting that she just lost that title. Roxanne Perez showing up on the main roster in the crowd to distract Bayley, showing up in segments on NXT, with Julia and Bayley setting up a tag match. The women's division sort of big like wash tub at the moment, mixing everybody around across all of the different shows, and generating a bit of hype, and what came out of it when the wash cycle finished was a title match between Jax and Ripley.
Which, the match that they had last year at Elimination Chamber kind of kicked off like the redemption arc for Nia, because it showed how good she actually is, and it kind of kicked things off for her while leading towards where we knew things were going for Rhea. And I think it's more of the same. It's like it continues to show it off Nia, but ultimately you're not going to have her jump ships and take the other title. It doesn't make any sense. You had all this big feud with Liv and Rhea. You're not going to have Rhea win the title and then lose it 3 weeks later.
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's like Rhea has plot armor right now after winning the big Liv Morgan redemption sort of championship win. She's got that belt at least until WrestleMania. I don't see her having a very like mega short reign or anything like that. Sometimes you do see it, when somebody wins a championship, losing it straight away, but I don't think in the situation that we're in right now and the feud that we just had, that'll be the case. Kind of makes them a bit like, foregone conclusions as we get towards the WrestleMania season now. 4 months from now, at WrestleMania, maybe. I'll never say never on that part. But
I also think Rhea's probably the likely target for the Rumble winner.
Mm-hmm.
I think whoever probably wants her, unless it's Charlotte. If Charlotte returns and wins it in the Rumble, which will grow, I just heard a lot from the internet, I might face Tiffany. But I think that's like the number person that could win the Rumble. If not.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit in the middle there, but I think I got the main point of what you said. You've got Tiffany Stratton on the SmackDown side of things. You got Rhea Ripley on the Raw side of things. 30 women entering that Rumble. We have had some vignettes from Charlotte, so I have no doubts that she'll be back in time for WrestleMania. And Tiffany versus Charlotte does make a whole lot of sense. I don't think it needs a Rumble victory to set that up, but I think I've said for the past 8 years now that insert match here doesn't need a Rumble victory to set it up, and then it's gotten a Rumble victory anyway. So who knows? Maybe they do go with Charlotte to set up her match with Tiffany, or as you say, Rhea Ripley more obvious of the targets, especially with someone who doesn't have feuds running right now. Bailey's off, going after Tiffany's title over in NXT, and Liv Morgan's just been finished. Kind of an open playing field. If you were to have either someone out of nowhere win the Women's Rumble, or even somebody maybe we do expect when the field starts to take place, but maybe brand jumping or at least setting up something new for Rhea Ripley, because she's got to get rid of that sort of smell of being against Liv Morgan for the last 12 months and get something a little bit fresher.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that the winner of the Rumble is technically not on the roster at the moment.
I do remember you pitching this today.
I do. I honestly believe that it'll be Jordynne Grace. I honestly believe that because that would be one hell of a way to bring her in full time, because she's basically done with the TNA. She basically had her last match with TNA on Saturday. So I think they bring her in. She comes in the Rumble probably somewhere around 25, 26, 27. One of the obvious numbers that the winner is probably coming from. And wins it, and then goes after Rhea, because that's the biggest match you could have with her coming in. Short of Charlotte, who doesn't have a championship. So
yeah, I think when we look at TNA, Jordynne Grace and Joe Henry, for me, are pretty much locks for appearing in the Rumble matches for sure. And right now, when I look at the Women's Rumble, it's only got Jackson Bailey, of which I don't think either of them are winning. So I'll happily agree to Grace coming out the winner, because I don't really have any better options laying in front of me right now. And you are right, it would be one hell of a way to kick off a WWE career. Yeah, it's instant rocket pack, but if anything, we've seen her prove herself on NXT and have great matches there, and the stuff that she's been doing on TNA has been great. So why not? I'll agree just this once. Why not? And we are only 2 weeks out now from the Rumble. Obviously, Saturday night's main event this weekend, Rumble next weekend. With the men's field, though, although the women only got 2, the men do have 9 now, starting to fill in a little bit. If I run them down, let's see if you've got any early favorites. LA Knight, John Cena, CM Punk, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, and Sami Zayn. Anybody sticking out to you as an obvious favorite right now?
It's I'd say of those ones that have been announced, the most likely winner, if it's just from those 9, is John Cena. Because as he said, I think in his promo, it would require, based on the fact that he's not won a single match in 5-6 years, it would require the Rumble for him to be challenging for a world title at WrestleMania. And it would give him his 3rd Rumble win, which would tie him with Austin in that regard, and would give him a shot at his world-breaking 17th world title reign. And I think if he wins, I think he definitely goes after Gunther. I think it's Gunther versus Cena at WrestleMania. There's a little bit of me that could say maybe Cody, but if he goes after Cody, there's not a chance that I see him winning that match. Because but also that kind of screws over the plan that we've had for Cody for WrestleMania the entire time. So I think it would be Gunther versus Cena, if those are the 9 options I have.
Do you feel like you've got something there in the back of your head that's not on those 9 that you want to pick?
Honestly, this is like the first Rumble in a long time that I have no idea who's going to win. For all I know, it could be Randy Orton, and he could get his 3rd Rumble win. And that's how we get Orton versus Cody, which would be a surprise return at the Rumble. I just know it's not going to be Punk or any of the trio of truth tellers. And I hate that Jay's announced in it because, again, he's not winning the world title. It's like, I don't know. It could be Cena, it could be Orton, it could be insert person here. I don't really know. And and for the first time, I think that's like, I'm really loving that because because it's not as obvious as it's been the last few years.
I love it that way. Let's keep it that way. We'll get more into the Royal Rumble chat next week after Saturday night's main event. But for this week, that is all we have the time for. It's been great talking to you.
Bye, D.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND up. And we will see you next week.